Welcome back in. This is Jake Ellenbogen. This is also JE Live, and we are doing our preview and our predictions for the Rams Cardinals game. This is going to be a little bit more in depth than yesterday. And if you haven't already missed it, I did cover it a bit with Alexis Kraft on the Downtown Rams podcast, episode 405, which is also on the channel if you'd like to check that out. But welcome in. Happy Friday. It seems like this week has gone by very slow. Breakneck slow. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it feels like it should be a thing because it has been unbearable how slow this week has gone by. And obviously, weeks are going to go by slow when you're looking forward to something. And I think everybody that is watching this right now, including myself, are looking forward to this game. Now, we're going to talk about it. Rams, Cardinals, what's going to go down. Obviously, you guys know my final score prediction if you have been following the channel, but if you haven't, then I'll hold it off for a little bit. Welcome in, guys. What's up, Substance, Preston, Matthew, DXNES, Omar, how we doing? Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and of course, let people know if, and also hit that thumbs up. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. So let's get into it, guys, because we do have quite a list here that I'm looking at going through the Rams injuries. We have a bunch of questionable guys. Right now, you have Leonard Floyd questionable with a back injury. You have Buddy Howell on the special teams unit, also running back questionable with a hamstring. Darius Williams is questionable with a shoulder. Taylor Rapp is questionable with a concussion. Van Jefferson questionable with a shoulder. And Matthew Stafford questionable with a toe. Jordan Fuller is out, as is Ernest Jones, with ankle injuries. One with a very severe ankle injury and one with a pretty bad ankle injury that, he still has a chance to come back next week. Sebastian Joseph Day is out with a chest injury, as you guys know. So basically, to kind of add some context to everything that's going on, Leonard Floyd is probably going to play. He's expected to play. He's been dealing with a back injury. He's been playing through it. So he's expected to play. Buddy Howell, not really sure. Again, it says questionable. Haven't really gotten anything on that end. Darius Williams, he was limited in he was a limited participant in practice. He is also trying to play. We'll see if he does. Taylor Rapp is likely out in the concussion protocol. Van Jefferson and Matthew Stafford are not going to miss this game, basically. So it's not going to affect them. Looking over at the other side, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Antonio Hamilton, cornerback, questionable with a tooth injury. All I can say is ow and wow. I've never seen this before. I hope the guy's okay. Would never wish a tooth injury on anybody. I'm hoping that's not, mega severe. But yeah, he's questionable. Zach Allen, the defensive end, is questionable with an ankle. Demetrius Harris, the tight end, is questionable with a shoulder. Jonathan Ward, the running back, questionable with a knee. James Conner's questionable with ribs. He is actually thought of to be a game-time decision. We've seen what James Conner can do against the Rams. So this is big. This could be massive if he does not play. He had 9 catches for over 90 yards the last time he went up against the Rams. Rondale Moore is questionable with an ankle. Jordan Phillips, the defensive end, is questionable with a knee. Marco Wilson, cornerback, is questionable with a shoulder. Chase Edmonds is expected to be a game-time decision with ribs and a toe injury. So that is something to keep in mind there. And guys that are out for this game, actually, J.J. Watt is also questionable, and it sounds like he might actually play after being on the sidelines for quite a bit with that shoulder injury. Sounds like he'll be back. DeAndre Hopkins is out, and so is Robert Alford. So those are the guys that are out there. Obviously, earlier in the year, Max Williams got hurt, so he's out. Kylie Fitz is out. So yeah, those are the guys that are out for the Cardinals. A lot of injuries. I mean, we're dealing with the wild card. It is week 19 in the NFL season. Regular season's over, but it's technically week 19. So this is what you can expect. It's late in the season. It's going to happen. Obviously, you hope it's not as major as some of these injuries are, but there's a lot of guys that are questionable and have a chance to play, so that's always good. Looking at this matchup right now, the over-under is 49.5. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is going over the over. I'm going to take the over on 49.5. I'll say it over and over again. This game is going to be at least 50 total points, if not more. Right now, the spread has gone down. It's been 4. Now it's gone down to 3.5. Rams 3.5-point favorites. So we'll see about that. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. But I think it's going to end with 3.5. I think that's how it's going to end, but, we'll see. In addition to that, the money line right now, if you guys are doing bets, the Rams would be minus 188 for the odds and plus 170 for Arizona. The Rams are 7-9 against the spread this year. Arizona is 9-7. The Rams are a very, very good road team. They're 7-2 on the season, but they're 5-3 at home, whereas Arizona is very good on the road, and they actually have a losing record at home. So, the Arizona Cardinals have lost 4 out of the last 5. The Rams have won 5 out of the last 6. When you look at this game, you obviously have to look at it in multiple ways because this is, once again, the same team. The same teams playing each other the third time this year. So that's also something big there, that dynamic. We've seen it in the past. Obviously, the Rams kicked off last year's playoffs. The underdog going to Seattle, tough environment to play back in the day, but they did go and they beat Seattle, and so they've played against an NFC West opponent pretty recently in the playoffs, but it's happened before. They beat Seattle a few years ago, back like a little bit after the greatest show on turf. They beat Seattle 3 times that season. So this is not going to be the case. The Rams have a chance to knock off Arizona for the second time, but they did lose to Arizona 37-20 earlier in the year. They beat them later on Monday Night Football 30-23. Looking at everything that's going on right now, with all the injuries and everything that the Rams are dealing with and everything that Arizona's dealing with, I do expect this to be a pretty good game, and I think this is going to be one of the best games of the week, to be honest with you, because this is this is a divisional, opponent, and when you look at the divisional rivalry games, those tend to, really push, they go down to the wire. I'm also expecting the same thing for the Bills and Patriots game. I don't believe there's any, off the top of my head, I don't believe there's any divisional rivalry games this week besides those two. So, I mean, that's pretty, crazy stuff there. Arizona just simply hasn't been that great, to end the season. They lost their last game against the Seahawks. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. They were dominating them, and they let them come back, and they almost won. They lost to the Rams. They lost to the Lions. They lost to the Colts. They have fallen off a cliff, but it is one of those things where when you go into the playoffs, it's a clean slate. And so, yes, they've lost 4 of the last 5, but it's no longer the regular season. Everyone is 0-0. I mean, yeah, you can put a win on the board. If the Rams win this game, you could say that they're 13-5. Or if the Arizona Cardinals win this game, you can say they're 12-6. But really, it's 0-0 on the board. Everybody is at their own level. I mean, obviously, you have higher seeds and things like that. But, that is that. I saw a bunch of people got kicked out, and I don't even know why, because I have ads turned off. So I'm going to be contacting YouTube support because it's getting ridiculous. We lose people. People sometimes don't come back. So I will get that fixed because it's just absolutely ridiculous. Every single time it's getting kicked out, every time people are getting, it's just not cool. I put a lot of time in this stuff, and you guys, you spend a lot of time watching this, so it's not cool for my audience to get kicked out like that. So I will be contacting YouTube support, trying to get that figured out. So again, I do apologize for that. I literally have ads turned off, so I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, back to this show. So looking at this, I mean, the Rams, their thing is that they have improved in every category as the season went on, except for the offense. The offense has somewhat fallen off a little bit. You have Matthew Stafford throwing 8 interceptions the last 4 games. It hasn't looked like it did earlier in the year. Now, here's my thing, okay? I think we're going to see a very good offensive performance from the Rams. The Rams are undefeated when Matthew Stafford doesn't turn the ball over. I understand that's, kind of ridiculous because it makes sense, right? I mean, who loses games when you don't turn the ball over? The Rams are 6-0. They've every game that they've lost, Matthew Stafford's turned the ball over, but they actually do have a winning record despite that. I've seen a lot of narratives out there that the Rams have no chance if Matthew Stafford throws a pick. The Rams can't come back. The Rams have proven they can't come back. And here's what I have to say about that. That's a false narrative. That's what we call that. That's fake news. Because look, it's not the best record, but they're 6-5. So they're above 500 when Matthew Stafford turns the ball over. Obviously, it's not as ideal as 6-0, but let's not make stuff up blatantly. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So you have Matthew Stafford, this is huge. This is absolutely huge for him and his legacy because he's constantly referred to as 0-3 and Stat Padford, and people don't give him respect and whatnot. But then you look at the other side of the coin, and this is Kyler Murray's first playoff game. And we all know how that goes. Everyone's like, well, he's great and all, but I want to see him do it in the playoffs. Well, now Kyler Murray is going to try to do it in the playoffs. Sean McVay, over the last 10 games, Sean McVay is 9-1 against Cliff Kingsbury. However, and keep this in mind, Cliff Kingsbury is playing his first playoff game as well. He's coaching his first playoff game as well. So, Sean McVay lost his first playoff game to the Atlanta Falcons as the 3 seed. They lost to the 6-seeded Falcons. They had a chance, but they, had unfortunate mishaps. They had 2, muffed punts from their big-time returner, their Pro Bowl returner, and Farrell Cooper at the time. They lost Michael Brockers in that game. So they lost that game. People forget that. Sean McVay was 0-1, and people were talking about that over and over again. It wasn't, hey, he led the team 11-5, back to the playoffs, won the division for the first time since 2004, all of that. Instead, it was, oh, he's 0-1. That's it. That's how it was. It was, oh, so this golden boy, this guy does this guy does that, but then he falters in the playoffs. That's the thing, Kingsbury, that's what's hanging in the balance for Kingsbury, because he knows this is not a good thing if they lose in the first round, regardless of who it is. That's just how things work. And so, I'll say this, looking at the 2 quarterbacks and the coaching and, and the coaches, it's also huge for Sean McVay. This is somebody that, won the wild card last year as a underdog, but this year, a lot of people would say that this is a better team. I would argue that last year's team might have been better. I think this year's team has a better quarterback, but last year's team, keep in mind they had, 3 guys, a 3-headed monster backfield that was top 10 in rushing. They had the number 1 defense. As great as this year is, it's almost like you still have to take away guys. It's not a full-on add-on. So, like, when you go out and get an OBJ, you do lose Robert Woods, whereas last year you would have had Robert Woods, so there's things there. Obviously, that dynamic. But looking at the running backs here, I'm expecting Cam Akers to be involved in a not a huge way, but I think a big enough way where he can make an impact. I actually, for those of you that are out there betting on FanDuel Sportsbook, for the same game parlay, I'm straight up picking anytime scorer Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is going to score a touchdown this game. I think they're going to need him. I think they're going to need everybody. This is going to be an all hands on deck type of game. Okay. But looking at the 2 running backs, the 2 running back rooms, you have Cam Akers and Sony Michel in LA, and then over in Arizona, both guys are game time decisions. I expect both to play, but they complement each other pretty well. You look at, Akers can do it all. He needs to get better in pass pro, and that's true, whatever, but he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, and, he's got that really nice blend of, speed and power, kind of the same thing that you're dealing with when you look at like a Chase Edmonds. And he doesn't have the long speed of Cam Akers, but he's quick, he's agile. Whereas James Conner's your power back, and he's going to punch it in close yardage situations. He's scored, a myriad of touchdowns this year, well over 10, one of the top scorers in the league. So that's something to keep in mind there. Looking at the receivers, you have Cooper Kupp, who's the best in the league right now. You have Van Jefferson, who's playing against his father for the third time this season, has, as I mentioned, yesterday, 8 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Arizona Cardinals this year alone. On top of that, you have Odell Beckham Jr., who, has shown you he had 5 touchdowns this season since he went to the Rams in 8 games. I think that they're definitely going to let him go. Actually, Steve Young, one of the analysts for ESPN and obviously former 49er and Hall of Famer Steve Young, came out and said, the thing that's really baffling to me, and I'm obviously paraphrasing, I'm not quoting him directly, but the thing basically that, he found very, baffling is the fact that Sean McVay hasn't gotten OBJ in space. He hasn't been able to get him in those situations where OBJ can take over and use that vision and use his explosive ability to extend plays. He's really not put himself, he hasn't put OBJ in those positions, and I agree. I also think it's kind of hard. You have to temper expectations because you're dealing with somebody that hasn't been in the offense that long, didn't get a ton of opportunities to practice either and learn the offense because all the COVID issues that were going on. He was included in that, and then on top of that, you had the fact that they had to close the facility. He couldn't practice. And so there's a lot of things going on there. And plus, he was also hurt too. He dealt with some injuries. So I do expect in this game for him to at least be used a little bit differently, see if they can get him some opportunities, as well as Tyler Higbee, who, if you guys haven't been paying attention, Tyler Higbee is so key in the blocking game, but they're finally using him in the receiving game. And, he had the career high receptions, or not career high, but season high receptions for himself, 6 catches for over 60 yards against the Ravens. That's when you finally started to see, like, okay, Matthew Stafford and Tyler Higbee, they're on the same page here. This is going to be very important as the season rolls on. And so they're going to need him. I mean, don't get me wrong. You look at Arizona's defense, Arizona has linebackers that can cover him. No doubt about that. But, I do think that they're going to want to get him involved, whether, a Jordan Hicks is on him, a Zaven Collins, an Isaiah Simmons, or you're talking about Budda Baker at the safety position, or even Jalen Thompson covering him. Regardless, I think he can help the Rams. I think he balances out the passing attack, makes it easier for Stafford to focus on spreading the ball out more naturally instead of forcing it to a certain guy that you and I both love, but you want to keep the defense honest that you can throw to other guys as well. That's what I'll say there. Looking at the offensive line for both teams, really right now, when you look at the Rams offensive line, I think the thing that's not being talked about enough is that Brian Allen was initially hurt. I thought he tore his ACL on that one play. I pointed that out. He was hurt. He got a knee injury. Coleman Shelton came in and played very well. Coleman Shelton, I think, should be starting. I don't know how good Brian Allen is at this point. I don't know if it's just him wearing down or not, but I do have to imagine that injury had something to do with his very poor performance against the San Francisco 49ers and his performance before that. I don't think Brian Allen has looked amazing on tape. I really don't, since, earlier in the year. So I think the injury had something to do with that. And if it did, when you have a center that is the weak link, then all of a sudden you have those pieces. It's like a giant gaping hole in, the middle of just like, say, you're putting up a wood plank and then you just see split it in half. That's essentially what defenses are doing. They're able to split that offensive line in half with their interior rush. Stafford can't step up into a pocket because there is none. And then all of a sudden, everything closes on and now you have a crumbling pocket. So I think that, a big time key here is Brian Allen's going to have to play at a level that we've seen in the past and a level that led him to be a Pro Bowl alternate. And if it's not him, then it needs to be Coleman Shelton. Sean McVay needs to realize, look, okay, he's not cutting it. We got to put Coleman Shelton back in. And this is how it's going to be. That's what they have to do because you cannot let Matthew Stafford deal with that type of pressure that he had up the middle the last game. Because the thing that Matthew Stafford can do as well as anybody is escape. He can escape the pocket. He can, shake sacks and things like that. He's fine against edge pressure, but if you notice, he struggles when he gets pressured right up the gut. He can, slip out of things. And, when he's in the grasp, even still, I've seen him go out and roll out and throw the ball away or get it to somebody or throw a pick. But when he is getting pressure up the middle, and this is why when Aaron Donald emerged in the league, it basically told everybody in the league, this is the new norm. You have to go out and you have to have an interior, defender that can rush up the middle. If they win up the middle, it makes it easier on the guys on the outside, and there's no pocket to step up into. Therefore, there's no leverage, and that's why Stafford's best throw of the day came from him throwing off his back foot, because he wasn't able to step into that throw. He wasn't able to step up into a pocket. He was getting pressured from, you guessed it, right up the middle. So that's very important, moving forward with this offense. You want to see that. You want to be able to defend that. Stafford needs to be able to be protected up the middle. Austin Corbett, you have David Edwards. Those guys can only play as well as the center allows them to. Once you have a leak, it's going to flood, and that is the thing. So hopefully he, gets his act together. Hopefully his knee's okay, and if it's not, I hate to break it to you, but you got to bench him and put Coleman Shelton back in, who played very well, I thought, in his stead. Now moving on to the defense here, looking at the depth chart for the Cardinals, you have Leaky Fotu. You have Corey Peters. You have Jordan Phillips. As we talked about, Phillips is a questionable. We don't know if he's going to play or not. You have Zach Allen, who's also questionable. You have Jonathan Ledbetter. You have Rashard Lawrence, Michael Dogby, and you have J.J. Watt, who's likely going to play. I think Watt is going to be a tremendous help against the run, but you could also just run to the other side that Watt's not on and try to attack that side. The Rams had great success running the football the last time they played against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are one of the worst teams at defending the run. However, Sony Michel only ended up with a little bit over 70 yards. Do you know why? The reason is because Arizona sold out to stop the run, and it opened up plays for Cooper Kupp. It opened up plays for Van Jefferson. So this is complementary football. This is how you win. When teams want to pick their poison, you make sure that other poison is still going to kill them. How we always talk about that, pick your poison. Would you rather be shot or stabbed? Sorry to be blunt, but think about it. The Cardinals are like, all right, we'll just be stabbed over and over again by the run. And then when they realize that Cooper Kupp is basically shooting them over the top and Van Jefferson shooting them over the top, they're like, okay, we're going to focus on that. We're going to bracket coverage Cooper. We're going to make sure we're going to, double team him. We're going to make sure he can't do that. And therefore, because of that, because they're making these adjustments, the box gets lighter. So what I mean by the box is you have, 7 or 8 guys. All of a sudden, you don't have as many guys up front. It's a lighter box, so to speak, this imaginary box in the, the front 7 or whatever. And when you don't have as many guys there, all it takes is for a guy like Cam Akers or Sony Michel to get to the second level, and he's bigger than everyone else trying to tackle him. So that's kind of a big thing there. And so this is why, the idea of pick your poison is so valuable to the Rams. It's how that they can, attack the weaknesses of the Arizona Cardinals. It's how that they can weaken the strengths of the Arizona Cardinals, because keep this in mind, Marco Wilson was playing great. He's hurt, not guaranteed to play. Budda Baker's one of the best safeties in the league. He is also on the All-Pro list, if you guys didn't see that. Byron Murphy had a pick the first time they played against him. He's been very good. I don't believe they had him for most of that game, in Arizona on Monday Night Football. Jalen Thompson's a pretty solid safety in his own right. So they have guys that, can obviously keep this thing going. They have a good secondary. And that's the thing. If the Rams want to weaken that secondary, that's one way. Another way, and we've said it over and over and over again. How many times do we talk about it? McVay has to run play action. You have to keep the defense honest. The thing is, the Rams, when they tried to run play action last year, it didn't work because no one bought that they were throwing. I'll be just straight with you guys, okay? You ready for this? You ready for me to give Jared Goff some credit? Those of you Jared Goff fans out there, Jared Goff was better at running play action than Matthew Stafford. Crazy, I know, but he sold it more. He really sold it more. I thought he was great at running the play action. The problem was he didn't sell it in a way where he was throwing down the field, so teams didn't care. They didn't buy it. They knew he wasn't going to run it. they weren't running play action. And if they did, he was going to throw it, short. So now you have Matthew Stafford, who leads the league in completed air yards per completion. And now you're talking about somebody that is lethal downfield, that defenses have to obviously keep honest, because here's the thing. If you run play action, you also have to run the football. The Rams have been running the football plenty over the last 5 games. I told you over and over again, they made adjustments since the Green Bay game. And here's the thing. When the Rams were running as well with Sony Michel, that was another thing. People had to respect that run game. Now Cam Akers is back. They're coming off a pretty bad running performance last week. I don't expect that to be the case, because I hate to break it to you, Arizona Cardinals fans, but Leaky Fotu is not a Nick Bosa in the interior or anything like that. He's not what the 49ers have, and that's the thing. I mean, that's about as simple as I can make that. He's not an Arik Armstead or anything like that. So, because of that, the Rams are able to run against this team. And if they do, kind of go, 8, 9 guys in the box and they sell out to stop the run, then you run play action, you throw over their heads. And that's how it's going to work. And we've already seen Van Jefferson has success, averages 18 yards per reception against the Arizona Cardinals on the season. We know that Cooper Kupp can go off in a heartbeat. The thing that people don't want to admit on other sides is that other teams is that Odell Beckham Jr. still hasn't been used to the best of his ability, and we don't know if that's coming. And if it does come in these playoffs, teams are going to be in trouble, because he's the third option right now. And then you have Tyler Higbee the way he's playing. So it's going to be important. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to attack their defense. Looking at the Rams defense, it's the same thing. The way that the Rams got after Jimmy Garoppolo early on, I want to see more of that. Obviously, Aaron Donald is getting some great play out of Greg Gaines next to him, which helps. And obviously, Greg Gaines is just playing well in general. But Aaron Donald, these are games where you want to see him explode. But you know what I said on the podcast with Alexis, if you guys didn't already hear, I said I expect Von Miller to have, an explosive playoffs. And think about back in 2018, 2019 season to go to the Super Bowl, that playoff run, there was one guy, a veteran that they acquired, and they got him, and everybody was shocked that they got him. Just, I don't know, as shocked about Von Miller, but pretty shocked. His name was Ndamukong Suh, and he wasn't amazing the whole season. I thought he had a good year, not great year, but then he went to the postseason, and he was just different. Ndamukong Suh, whether he lined up as an edge defender, whether he lined up in the interior, Suh was huge. He was the X factor of that defense. I think Von Miller is going to gear up to that level. Another guy, where we talked about Odell earlier, to me, Von is in the same boat where he wasn't able, he comes to the Rams, the injury's worse than people thought, so he sits out the first 2 games. Odell played his first game before Von. So that's one thing. Second thing is the whole COVID thing. He was on the COVID list. On top of that, you had, his injury forcing him not able to practice. They had to shut down the facility. So he's also getting things going. I don't think it's a surprise that all of a sudden his sacks are starting to, come together. He's starting to get pressure and things like that. He's a top 5 edge defender and pressure towards the end of this season. The last quarter of this season, he's been killing it. It's just it hasn't amounted to sacks. I think in this game, he has a chance to really blow up, and I won't be surprised if he does. And I think really this playoff run, Von Miller is going to explode the way we saw Ndamukong Suh explode. So then you move on. We talked about, pass rushers and, interior defenders. Obviously, I think Leonard Floyd is going to be a little limited because of that back. I don't know if we're going to see Leonard Floyd at the level that we saw him mid-season. I think that injury is going to linger, and so they may have to make a switch to Justin Hollins depending on how much it lingers and if he even plays. Then you look at the linebackers. Ernest Jones will probably be back next week, if they make it, not assuming. If they make it, we're thinking they will, but, if they make it, he'll be back. But Travon Howard has played incredibly well, not only as a sideline-to-sideline linebacker that can make tackles, but you saw him in coverage against JaMychal Hasty against the 49ers last week. This is a former safety in his own right out of TCU, and this is somebody, in my opinion, that can cover a Zach Ertz, somebody that, to me, I think is the X factor of the Arizona Cardinals offense. I think they definitely can cover him. I think, he can definitely make an impact. Troy Reeder may or may not be wearing the green dot, so we'll see about that, but Reeder had one missed tackle last week. I thought he played pretty well. He's played well since he was demoted, and then he became the starter again with the injury. So I actually like the way Reeder's playing. I love the way Travon Howard's playing. Should have been playing all year. And then you, of course, look at, what you have with Jalen Ramsey and what he can do. And, it could be a little different because they don't have a DeAndre Hopkins to account for. But let's not sleep on Christian Kirk. He's had quite the year, and he's very explosive over the top. This is a guy that was a do-it-all return man at Texas A&M. And, I mean, he may not be doing that as much in this league, but he's definitely explosive, athletic receiver, good route runner. He's really improved. His hands are very good. I mean, this is a guy that Kyler Murray relies on. So I don't know if Jalen Ramsey will be on him, and I think a lot of it depends on, a guy like Darius Williams. If he's healthy and things like that, then you can change what you're doing, maybe even put Ramsey at safety. But I do think they'll have Ramsey, for the most part, playing the Where's Waldo role in that sense. Get a little bit of a laugh there, but I always thought that was funny. But the star position, I mean, I think that's what Ramsey will do. Then you look at the safeties, it's likely going to be Terrell Burgess and Nick Scott. You'll see Eric Weddle sprinkled in there. Taylor Rapp, I don't expect to play. Really what they're going to do is they're going to keep these guys pretty deep, I think. They're not going to test anything, not put too much pressure on these safeties. And let's be honest here, I think what we miss is that this idea where, the backup's playing. Oh, he's going against NFL backups. How many times have the Rams gone up against an NFL backup and the guy plays well, or that team wins? I mean, we could go back to, just be painful about it, I guess. In 2011, in January, when, the Rams went up against the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round, and Charlie Whitehurst won against the St. Louis Rams. We could do that. Or we could do, Tyler Huntley. I thought he played very well for being a backup quarterback against the Rams. Or we could do the fact, the Rams, anytime they knock a corner, they had that one year, anytime they knocked a quarterback out, they would still lose the game. I mean, here's the thing. These guys can play in the NFL, and a lot of the time that you'll see is a guy like Burgess, we've all been clamoring for. We believe he deserves, more of an opportunity, and the thing is he hasn't gotten that because of what is in front of him. The coaches believe that they are ahead of him, things like that. But now he gets an opportunity. And there's a lot of guys around the league that are like that, in that same spot where their fans are clamoring for them to get opportunities and they don't. So I'm not about to rule out any of these guys at all just because they're backups. I don't care about that. Skill is skill. Talent is talent. There's plenty of it around the league. There's probably about 80 running backs that could run for 1,000 yards, whatever situation they're in, if not more, in this league. And that kind of goes to show you there's talent everywhere. It's just some guys get the opportunities and some guys don't. Christian Kirksey wasn't even on a team. He goes to the Texans and he's getting turnovers. He's getting 10-plus tackles. These guys can play, and that's the thing. So I'm not worried necessarily. I don't think the Rams are going to put Nick Scott in like some incredibly difficult role. I don't. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to help them as well. I think the pass rush is going to get to Kyler. Just don't allow Kyler to do what he did in the first game, which I also felt was kind of fluky in general. And I think they'll be good in that regard. So that is that as far as the defense goes. And we talked about the offense a bit. Kind of just going through it again with the receivers. You can expect guys like, Christian Kirk to be, utilized. AJ Green, Hopkins is out. So, because of that, you're probably looking at Antoine Wesley, that big 6'5" body. Obviously we've seen him. He's been catching touchdowns left and right. He actually has the familiarity factor with, what's his face, the coach, Cliff Kingsbury, from his days at Texas Tech. I liked him a lot in the draft. I had him a top 10 grade. So this guy can go up and high point the football. He could be a problem. The biggest problem is, if the Cardinals figure out how to use Rondale Moore, if Moore is healthy and he goes out there, he is the biggest threat on the field. He's the fastest guy. He's the most explosive guy. I truly feel like if they figure out how to use Rondale Moore in this game, it could be scary. But they haven't figured out how to use him. He's got the fewest average targeted yards in the league. He has the most yards of separation. He has the biggest cushion against him, but they're not targeting him. They're basically throwing, screen passes. And the Rams, they really did a nice job of navigating that well and defending that well the last time they met. So I'm not entirely worried about Rondale Moore because Arizona hasn't used him the right way. If they do, watch out. But, that to me is the scariest one. The X factor, of course, is Ertz. And then I'd say the defense, just players to highlight. Budda Baker, obviously, what he can do. Byron Murphy. And then, of course, you got to highlight Mr. J.J. Watt. I think, J.J. Watt is definitely somebody to keep in mind, moving forward. I think that's definitely somebody that you can't just forget about. He's back, and he may not, he'll probably play. He may not be he may not be 100% fine, but he can help you in the run game and stopping the run, and that's one thing that they've had a hard time doing, against anybody this year, basically. But just looking at it, Vance Joseph, again, his defense gives up a lot on the ground. His defense is pretty good against the pass. Look at the Rams, obviously, they've just transformed their defense. Despite the fact they lost that game against the 49ers, that wasn't scheme. That wasn't the 49ers outdoing them, and that wasn't the 49ers outsmarting them. Maybe the fake touchdown, the touchdown pass from Debo to Jawan Jennings was outsmarting them. But my point here is that the Rams make a few of those tackles. They miss 19. If they make a few of those, it's a different ball game, and they probably win. So really, I'm going to make this as simple as it sounds. It may sound casual, but at the end of the day, they need to just be able to tackle. Here's the thing, the scheme isn't the problem. The coaches aren't the problem. If you put together a game plan where you keep everything in front of you and you make sure, you keep everything in front of you, you nullify the big play, and all you have to do is tackle the first time. The first time you have contact, your first man on the defense has to make that tackle. If you do that, you can run that with efficiency. But the problem is when you can't make those tackles, it destroys you. It rips you in half. And that's what happened late in that game against the Niners. So I am a little concerned with the tackling, especially Nick Scott missing a few of those key tackles last week. We'll see him this week. But yeah, I got the Rams winning 31-24. You guys probably already knew that, but I do. I think the Rams are the better team. I think the Rams were the better team when they lost to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals had an easier schedule. Actually, I know the Cardinals had an easier schedule because they didn't have a second-place schedule. The Rams had a second-place schedule. They didn't have a last-place schedule like the Niners, but they did have a third-place schedule because everyone forgets Seattle won the division last year. So Seattle going 7-10, they actually had a tougher schedule because they won the division, whereas the Rams also had a tougher schedule, but they didn't have as tough as Seattle. And, the Cardinals were playing all the teams that were third place last year. So, the Cardinals, they did a nice job of winning their games, but they also faltered down the stretch. So we'll see. But I had the Rams winning 31-24. I can see this game starting off. The Rams want to, control the clock early on. Obviously, time of possession's been a key to beating the Rams. The Rams have gotten better, but they did kind of go back to their old ways against the 49ers. They allowed them to continue to possess the football. If you're wondering why a guy like Matthew Stafford isn't throwing over 300 yards per game, why this team isn't leading the league in scoring, things like that, I think a lot of it actually comes down to the fact that defense just simply hasn't been able to stop, for the most part this year. Obviously, they did a great job down the stretch, but as good as the defense has been, the defense isn't like last year where they were sometimes, honestly, they were more fun to watch than the offense. The defense isn't stopping them on like a 2-minute drive, right? That's how I look at it. The defense, when they're giving up that bend don't break, when they're bending, that's a lot of time coming off the clock. And when you're in a rhythm and you're a rhythm passer the way Matthew Stafford is, the worst thing that you can do to a rhythm offense like that is take them out of the rhythm by having them sit out an entire quarter. And that's essentially what happened. The Niners, they kept Stafford on the sidelines for almost the entire third quarter last game. You can't have that. So there needs to be more consistency. The Rams need to be scoring in every quarter. The Rams need to be getting at least 10 to 11 possessions per game. Under 10 is a problem. And, I do think the Rams are going to win this game 31-24. I think you're going to see some great things out of Van Jefferson in this one. He's already shown against the Cardinals this year, 18 yards per reception. This is somebody that can be used as a deep threat over the top. He can be used over the middle. I think he has a game. But on top of it, if you guys are betting folks out there, his prop right now, and if you look at it over on Prize Picks, it's under, I believe Prize Picks is like 35, the over-under for his receiving yards. His prop on like Caesars right now and FanDuel is like 38.5. I think he's easily getting over 38.5 receiving yards in this game. So that's why I like that. In addition to that, I also think, Cam Akers is going to be utilized. I think Sony Michel's going to be utilized. The Cardinals are 0-3 when they give up over 100 yards. I don't know why teams stop running the football against them, but they do. And so when you run the football against the Cardinals, good things happen. When you pressure Kyler Murray, good things happen as long as you can have a guy there to tackle him. This is a good team as far as their defense and making sure that they can wrap guys up and hold them long enough where they can get a gang tackle. But 1v1, that's their issue. They got to win more tackles in space. They got to win those matchups. They got to have a Nick Scott come up and make a play in the box. Things like that. If they don't do that, then these guys are going to kill them just as much as the 49ers did down the stretch. Because you have Kirk, you have Rondale Moore, you have A.J. Green. These guys can slip out of tackles. And if they do, it's going to be a problem. So you need to make sure that you hold them, under wraps. But guys, that's how I have it. 31-24. I think the Rams advance. I think they end up playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. I do think the 49ers are going to beat Dallas. If you guys didn't hear my preview for, I basically predicted the whole first round of the playoffs. That video is also on my channel. Check that out. But I do think the Cowboys are going to lose to the Niners, and so I think the Niners will play Green Bay. I think the Rams will have Tampa Bay in Tampa. I think the Rams are then in a really good spot. They have some warmer air to deal with. I think this team will thrive in more of an open air, warmer air condition than obviously the colder environments of Lambeau. And obviously Stafford's played there. He was in Michigan. He had to go, in that conference or that division, he had to go to Soldier Field every year. He had to go to Lambeau Field every year. So it's not like it's unheard of for him to play in the cold, but I think it's a good matchup going to Tampa. They've already really won last year. They beat Tom Brady in Tampa with Jared Goff. They beat Tom Brady with Stafford. The only difference is that they beat him last year by 3. This year they beat him by 10. This year they dominated them. I mean, that game was not as close as it looked. They absolutely dominated them. Is the offense as good as it was then? We'll find out. But I do have the Rams playing Tampa next week, and I do have the Dallas Cowboys losing to the 49ers and the 49ers playing Green Bay, which would lead us to the NFC Championship game, which it would either be the Rams and Bucks or the 49ers and Packers. Guys, you let me know who you'd want to see. Personally, I'd rather see the Packers than the 49ers, but at the same time, that's almost kind of ridiculous because you have to feel like, third time this year is a charm. But again, I wouldn't even want to chance it. So you guys let me know in the comments section. Please hit the like button. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please be sure to subscribe and, go tell somebody about my channel if you can. Appreciate everybody congratulating me on 10K. I have seen you. And I think I saw, real quick before I go, yes, Matthew, thank you so much for donating. Saw Weddle's presser. He looked good in condition. Looked in good condition. Yeah, I get out every time. I just wait and re-enter. It's so annoying. And again, I'm going to try to get that fixed, guys. Again, I'm really sorry about that. I'm glad we were able to rally back. We went from, we're killing it with the views, and they're going up to like 40 early on, to then they went all the way down to like 10. So I got to figure that out. I mean, that's inexcusable by YouTube. I'm sorry. I promote YouTube a lot. Like, I'm always telling people they should join YouTube and do their own channel. But that that does piss me off, quite frankly. But we're not going to get negative here. We're just not. It's Friday. Hope everyone has a great Friday. I'm considering, you guys let me know in the comments section after this, like just post a comment after this drops and just let me know whether you'd like to. I'm considering doing watch parties for all the games this weekend. I don't know if I will, but I'm considering doing them. I would at least do the Raiders and Bengals if anyone was interested. So, guys, just let me know if you'd like to see that. Definitely let me know, and I'll see if I can make that work. Because I'd like to, if there's a market for it, if people are interested in watch parties, cool. Rams are a little different. Those games are different. I understand it sounds weird seeing as I'm an 85% Rams channel. But, you know, I've already explained my reasoning for that. I watch with my family. So, you know, we'll do that. But appreciate you guys. You can actually go over to Prize Picks today, use promo code DTRAMS, and get a 100% bonus match. And there's plenty of really good stuff there. You can put together a lineup and win some money with the Rams game, with any of the games this weekend. I know I'm going to be using it a ton because there's a lot of games this weekend that I'm interested in and really just interested in doing the over-under. And so that's really what Prize Picks is. You put together a parlay of over-unders and you can win a lot of money. So be sure to join that if you haven't already. Give it a shot. You know, can't hurt. Also be sure to, I know Nolan will drop it, but be sure to hit the Discord. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. So appreciate you guys so much. Appreciate the support. Again, hope everyone has a great weekend if I don't see you until Monday. But, you know, there's a chance I do a watch party. So you guys let me know if you would prefer that or if you'd prefer just letting me, you know, give me a breather and I'll be on here Monday. Let me know in the comments section. Be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Later, guys. You guys take care and have a great weekend.